to week 2 of our new series, Making Relationships Work. And if you missed last week, we're doing a series on relationships, and we're trying to invest in those of you that may not be married and give you the tools and things on this side of marriage to have the type of marriage that God wants you to have. And for those of us that are married, we want to, again, position you to have a successful marriage as well and give you principles found in God's Word to really enrich your relationship. And last week, we talked about the number one essential to making relationships work is to have God at the center of your life, the center of your marriage, at the center of your relationship. And if you missed last week, I want to encourage you to go onto our website and watch our service on our YouTube station, and you'll be caught up. Well, today we're going to talk about fighting fair. And I don't know if you heard about the guy that left work one Friday afternoon, and he's married, but instead of going home, it was payday as well. Instead of going home, he went out and hung out with his friends for the whole weekend and blew his paycheck. When he finally comes home Sunday night, he was confronted by a very angry wife and was yelled at for nearly 2 hours for not coming home. And finally, the wife stopped her nagging and just looked at him and said, "How would you like it if you didn't see me for 2 or 3 days?" To which he replied, "That would be fine with me." Monday went by, he didn't see his wife. Tuesday and Wednesday came and went with the same results. Come Thursday, the swelling went down just enough in his eye to be able to see his wife out of the corner of her eye. Got to think about that one, okay? I have to confess to you, Karen and I had quite a fight a couple weeks ago, but it didn't end up with me having a black eye. We dealt with it a lot differently. I want to let you know that she came crawling back to me on her hands and feet. That's right, come crawling back. And she looked at me from under the bed and said, "Get out, stand from underneath the bed and fight like a man." So, anyway, hey, here's the reality. The reality is all couples will fight. Why? Because we're all sinners, and our sinfulness leads us to do sinful things. And every relationship, every good one, is going to have conflict. And if you don't know how to deal with it, if you don't know how to manage it, if you don't know how to resolve it, it can kill your relationship, it can kill your marriage, it can kill a friendship. Mark 3:24 and 25 says, "A kingdom that is divided cannot continue, and a family that is divided cannot continue." And today, what I want to do is just give you some very practical steps right out of God's Word on how to deal with conflict. And if you're not married, these principles you can take and apply at work and with your children or whatever. We all have conflict in our life. Whenever we have relationships, we're going to face conflict at some point. And here's something that Craig Rochelle said out of his book, This Day Forward. And you may want to write it down. I don't think I put it in your notes. He says this: healthy couples fight for resolution. Unhealthy couples fight for victory. I want to say that again. Healthy couples fight for resolution. Unhealthy couples fight for victory. I would encourage you to pick up that book as well. James 1:19 and 20 gives us some great insight really when it comes to resolving conflict. It says this: "My dear brothers and sisters, always be willing to listen and slow to speak. Do not become angry easily, because anger will not help you live the right kind of life God wants." And give you 3 principles found in this passage and really how to fight fair. So you're in a fight. Things are escalating. What do you need to do? Well, James really kind of lays it out. First one is this: we need to listen. James is very clear. It says, always be willing to listen. But you know what? That doesn't come to us naturally. What comes to us naturally is quick to, try to defend ourselves, try to make our point and to argue back and maybe even, respond with a low blow. But what is James saying? James is saying, hey, listen, you need to slow down. You need to listen. And when we start to fight, we need to catch ourselves, we need to downshift, and we really need to focus in on the other person and try to understand where they're coming from. And here's what the scripture says: if we don't do that, what does the scripture tell us? Proverbs 18:2 says, "Fools do not want to understand anything. They only want to tell others what they think." saying, hey, a fool only wants to get their point of view across. They want to win the argument at any cost, and they don't really care what the other person, viewpoint is. And I have to tell you, for years, man, that's how I conducted my life, man. It was always had to one-up somebody. I always had to get the last point, made, and that was just who I was. And, fortunately, hopefully I've grown a lot in those areas. But we need to try to understand the other person's point, because, again, the Bible tells us if it's all about us trying to win the argument, all about us making our point, the Bible calls us a fool. And it's not natural for me to want to look at Karen's perspective. It's not natural if I have a conflict with one of you to try to look from your perspective. But it's a mental shift that doesn't come naturally, but I need to make it to resolve conflict. And we can make that with God's help. And here's the deal. When you really begin to understand where people are coming from and really begin to understand their background, their makeup, maybe their family background, how God's wired them, and you kind of put all that together, it gives you a perspective of where they're coming from. It's like that old cliche. It says, we must seek to understand before seeking to be understood. I want to say that again. We must seek to understand before seeking to be understood. And there's two areas in marriage, and this really applies to really all relationships, that we really need to be considerate of. Romans 15:2 says that we must bear the burden of being considerate of the doubts and fears of others. And maybe if you're married, maybe sometimes you may look at some of your spouse's fears and doubts and say, you know what, that's not a big deal, man. That is so minor. There is nothing to that. But we need to understand from their perspective, it is a big deal. And we need to be sensitive to that. Just to try to paint a word picture to you. Say you have a husband and wife, they're married. A husband crawls in bed at night. He's snuggling up and he puts a cover up around him. He's getting ready to doze off to sleep. And the wife says, hey, babe, did you check the doors? And he mumbles, yeah, I checked them earlier. She said, would you mind double checking them? And the husband grudgingly says, what's this about? Why didn't you ask me 15 minutes ago? And all of a sudden they have a fight. But if you peel back the layers, they come from two different backgrounds. The husband, man, he's raised in the country. He never had to lock his doors. They never locked the windows. They left the keys in the car, unlocked. They didn't have to worry about that. But she came from a crime-ridden neighborhood, big city, that at sundown, man, you pulled the curtains to, you closed the shades, you locked the doors, you turn the dogs loose, you pull up the drawbridge, you let out the gators, and then you go to bed. And she's thinking, all I'm asking him to do is check the doors, man. That's what is so important to me. That's how I grew up. And from her perspective, it's a no-brainer. But from his perspective, he doesn't see a big deal. But it is a big deal on her part. We need to not only look at where people are at, but, really, where did they come from and what's part of their background. I need to consider my spouse's perspectives. And we can take that. We need to consider our friend's perspective. The Bible says this in Philippians 2:4, do not be interested only in your own life, but be interested in the lives of others. You are most like Christ when you ask, what is his needs? What is her needs? Man, that's when we're most like Jesus. When you're angry, you're preoccupied with yourself. So try to see things from their perspective. Another way, if you catch yourself in a conflict, repeat back to your spouse. Repeat back to your friend, what they just expressed. What was going on with them? And it helps, just say, hey, listen, I'm hearing you say that I hurt you when I said this. Or you felt left out when I did this. Whatever it may be, repeat it back. And what that does is it helps you be focused on the conflict at hand. That's also sending signals to them that you really want to know what you've done to hurt them or what the problem is. And also, you're letting them know that you value them and you want to hear their heart. Here's the second thing Scripture tells us. Guard our speech. Again, James says, always be willing to listen and slow to speak. And I love Proverbs 21:23 says this, those who are careful about what they say keep themselves out of trouble. I want to say that again. Those who are careful about what they say keep themselves out of trouble. Man, I wish I'd have learned that a lot quicker than I did. Saved myself a lot of pain. But here's the deal. Learn how to attack the issues without attacking the person, without attacking your spouse, without attacking your friend. You've got to establish some ground rules when you're fighting fair. You need to agree to just eliminate certain really negative phrases and certain negative threats. And Ephesians says this, when you talk, do not say harmful things, but say what people need, words that will help others become stronger. Then what you say will do good to those who listen to you. If you're dating, if you're hoping to date or you're engaged, it's a great time to really begin to look at rules on how to fight fair. And we have to communicate love. We've got to tell truth in a compassionate and loving way. When the Cold War was going on with communist countries, we used to do things called an arms reduction treaties. And even though we were bitter enemies with these different communist countries, we would agree not to use certain weapons. Nuclear arms were out of bounds. We will not use them if you don't use them. That was the deal. Even in the heat of battle, even in wartime, God forbid, civilized countries, they agreed. They said certain weapons are totally out of bounds. Because if we use them, it's going to destroy both sides. So we agreed, man, we're not going to use nuclear, we're not going to use biological, we're not going to use mustard gas or whatever, even though we are facing possibly a battle. We will agree some weapons are off the table. Some weapons are too deadly, too devastating to use in a fight. And in your marriage, you need to do the same thing. You need to agree to eliminate certain deadly verbal tools, weapons in your arsenal. Now, if you don't get anything else from what I'm speaking about today, man, I'm hoping you're going to take this home and really apply it today in your relationship. The Bible is very specific of what we're not to use in conflict. Colossians 3:8 says, but now also put these things out of your life, anger, bad temper, doing or saying things to hurt others, and using evil words when you talk. Say this, never call names. Never call names unless you're calling your spouse a pet name or something like that. No name calling. Eliminate that. Put that off bounds. Never raise your voice. You raise your voice, man, it only escalates things. Do not raise your voice, man. You catch yourself raising your voice, man, step back, count to 10, breathe in, sing a chorus, a kumbaya, whatever works for you. Downshift it. Step back. Don't give a history lesson. You know what I'm talking about? Don't bring up a past failure. Don't say, back in 2005, you did something similar, whatever. Let the past be the past. Because the minute you start pulling stuff out of the past, man, that puts up a wall with that other person. Never say never or always, because that's very rare. That's very rare. And again, that just escalates. Never threaten divorce if you're married. Don't do it. That is a low blow. There is nothing ever good that comes from that. And don't play the mind reader. And a lot of times, I'm sure we've all of us who's ever been married, been there at one point in time, you're in an argument and one spouse says to the other, man, you know what I'm upset about? And this other spouse really doesn't. And you say, no, I don't. No, you do. If you love me, you would know how you've hurt me. Man, you just have to be clear, accurate, just be, just don't play the mind game. Because particularly some of us guys, we're like, sometimes we can be naive. We need it spelled out for us, okay? You need to get to the point and just say it in a great, a positive fashion, without anger, without hatefulness. And some of you today, you may need to go home and ask forgiveness of your spouse and just say, you know what? And looking back, we need to really look at, we can't go this way. I've been sarcastic, or I've called names, or whatever. And again, set some rules. Lay it out, man. Just say, we can never, threaten divorce again. We can't call one another names. If we got to take a break, we need to take a break. Here's the other thing, before I move on to the next point. Sometimes you're in an argument. Okay, you're having a conflict. And there's something that comes to your mind that needs to be addressed. But you know what? That doesn't mean it has to be addressed at that point in time. You got to be mature. You got to be wise. Maybe there's something, that you need to see that needs to be addressed. But the wise thing to do is to wait and draw back and revisit it when things have calmed down. We're having a cup of coffee and everything's cool. And you're able to say, hey, listen, babe, remember we had that argument a couple weeks ago? We need to look at this. Or whatever, and you approach it from a different perspective. Just because you see something doesn't mean you have to deal with it at that moment in time. So we need to stop, we need to listen carefully, we need to guard our words faithfully, carefully, and then number 3, handle our anger righteously. And this is so important because we're all going to get angry. But what we want to do is we want to handle it by allowing the Holy Spirit of God to lead us. Again, James 1:19 says, my dear brothers and sisters, always be willing to listen and slow to speak. Do not become angry easily, because anger will not help you live the right kind of life God wants. And here's what I learned. Man, there's just sometimes you just got to let things go. You don't have to be right about everything, even though maybe you are right. You have to ask yourself, is this hill worth dying on? Ephesians 4:26-27 says, when you are angry, do not sin, and be sure to stop being angry before the end of the day. Do not give the devil a way to defeat you. A lot of people say, they don't really realize that, hey, it's okay if you're angry. We're all going to get angry, but it's how we deal with it that counts. And again, this could be a life-changing principle if you really grasp this. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. Don't go to bed with this unforgiveness attitude or this burning, hatred in your heart or whatever you might want to call it. Because what you'll do is if you go to bed like that, you're going to give the enemy a foothold in your relationship. And what happens is when you wake up in the morning, it hasn't gone away. It's been given time to grow and fester. And here's one of the things that Karen and I have learned over the years. We never go to bed angry. Now, I want to tell you, there are times that we've gone to bed and we haven't actually resolved maybe the conflict at hand. And this has happened very often, but there's times when we've recognized, you know what, we're not going to work this out tonight. And for us to continue, it's just going to escalate. So we have talked it out and said, hey, listen, we're going to set this off to the side. We're going to come back tomorrow to this, or maybe even a couple days from now. But we learned to say, hey, we got to back off this. I want to tell you, sometimes it takes a while to get to that point, but I'm telling you, this is a secret to resolving conflict because, man, you're just going to be continuing throwing grenades at each other all night, and you just say, hey, listen, we're not getting anywhere. Let's revisit this, and that will help. And I just want to encourage you, handle anger in a righteous way. And I just want to wrap up with this. 3 very quick points. Be proactive when it comes to your marriage. I want to encourage you to invest in your marriage. We go to seminars, we go to conferences to further our careers, to position us to be successful in a particular area. Folks, we need to have that same type of diligence when it comes to our marriage. We've got a marriage conference coming up the first weekend of October with Richard Marks. Everybody knows he's outstanding. Every single one of us should be at that conference. I don't care if you're divorced, married, not married. Man, this helps you. This positions you to have successful relationships. Unless you are dead, dying, or out of town, you should be there. And there's tickets on sale in the information. This message isn't to try to twist your arm to get there. Again, I want to increase your odds to have successful relationships. Invest. Buy books. Go through marriage books with your spouse. We've got a great couple here, Tom and Kristen Ross, who's actually a part of Richard Mark's local expression of his ministry here locally. We're blessed. They're a part of our church. They're going to be doing a marriage small group study on Wednesday night. Man, if that's an area that you need to grow in, man, hey, sign up for their group. My point is this, invest in your marriage. Don't just move along in it, man. Invest. Look for ways to help your marriage. Here's number 2. If your marriage is in trouble, if you are at an impasse, you've been at an impasse for a while and there's just no movement whatsoever, there is movement, but it's going the wrong way if you're not resolving it. Seek professional help if needed. When your back goes out, you go to a back doctor. When you're having a medical problem, you're not ashamed to pick up the phone and call a doctor. Man, if you're having legal problems, you seek out a lawyer. If you're having financial problems, you seek out a CPA. If you're having relational problems, I want to challenge you, seek out a relational expert. There's no shame in that. I have done that myself. We all need to do that. You need to love your spouse enough to do that. You have too much on the line not to go to a relationship expert. And we have a great group of counselors that we network with in this area that are Christian counselors. You can simply call myself or contact the office and we will give you a referral. But I just want to encourage you, man, seek out a relational expert if you're hurting in that area. Last point is this: always look to God for help. You cannot do this on your own. You need Christ's power in your life. And if you haven't committed your life to Jesus, I'm not trying to be too harsh on you, but this is reality. If you haven't committed your life to Jesus Christ, you're really at conflict with God. And if you're at conflict with God, it's just going to be natural that you're going to be at conflict with those around you. But when you make peace with God, all of a sudden, man, you're experiencing His peace, and that can flow out to other relationships around you. Because here's what happens. Colossians 3:15 says, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your heart, since as members of one body you are called to peace, and be thankful." God's peace will produce peace in your heart that will allow you to begin to have peace with those around you. And I really believe that many of the marriage conflicts that may be happening can be solved if a husband and wife will humble themselves before God and just say, "God, we bring you our egos. We bring you our pride. We bring you our problems. God, we need you. We need you in our personal lives. We need you in our marriage." You know what you're doing when you do that? You're giving God something to work with. You're being proactive with your marriage. You're inviting God to be a part of your relationship and healing process. And I just want to encourage you, He is more than capable, more than able to help you in whatever relationship struggle you may be having. Let's just bow our heads and pray right now. And Father, I just pray right now in the name of Jesus that you would give hope, that you would give healing, that you would bring restoration and forgiveness, Father, today to those that need it in our midst today, Father. And whether you're married today or whether you're not, I want to challenge you just to make this commitment before God. And just say, "God, I want to be more godly in how I handle conflicts. I want to be slow to speak, God. I want to be fast to listen. God, help me to handle my anger in a way that's pleasing you. God, help me to grow in my ability to resolve conflict, God. Help me to see help me to see things from their perspective, God, and not be so quick to try to defend or make my point." And maybe you're here today and you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ. If that's you today, just pray this prayer. "God, today I open up my heart to you, God. Lord, I acknowledge that I need you. Forgive me for all the wrong things I've ever done. And Jesus, I just proclaim you are the Lord of my life. And I pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen."